Hold on tight. It's time again for the ride of your life at Capital Ford. And the ride of your life begins now with great low payments on a new 2026 Ford Bronco Sport. Buy for as low as $399 a month. Or a new 2026 Ford Maverick. Also buy for as low as $399 a month. And you need to buckle up because Ford employee pricing is now available during our Ride of Your Life event at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another live episode here on the Pit Press. I am your host tonight. I got a co-host, special co-host, and a very special guest joining us on the Pit Press Live in our third edition, Coach Sanchez, with UNM women's basketball legends. And Coach Sanchez, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. How are you guys doing? Great to be here.
Great to be here. And like we were just talking about backstage, I don't think anyone really has ever had a former head coach and the current head coach on this sort of show, and we're excited, looking to talk a lot of X's and O's, recruiting, philosophies, that sort of thing. But Coach Amy Eagan is our special guest for the night. I know that you've been extremely busy the last couple of months and weeks. Have you had a chance to slow down and catch your breath?
Not really, but I don't mind that at all. I'm really excited about all the things that are happening in our program and the ability to get out there and speak about, my staff, our players, and the program and where we're headed with stuff.
Uh-oh,
we lost her.
Well, she'll get back here soon. But it is good to have Coach Eagan on, and she's been tremendously busy on just about everything that she's done. We just ended a alumni Zoom meeting that she was on, and it's a whirlwind for her. And I've told her before and talked to her a little bit about how special New Mexico is and how much attention she'll get with just about everything, from the fans to the media. And at one point or another, she's going to have to concentrate on her team and coach basketball. But she's got a tremendous staff who can also get all that taken care of as well.
Yeah. So, Coach, you actually attended the open practice with the women's basketball program last week. From your coaching perspective, I mean, what did you see out on the floor? How was she running practice? I guess your kind of first look at this team on the court together. What were your kind of first initial knee-jerk reactions?
The first thing I could think of was energy, and positive energy. She started off the open practice with a defensive drill, which is, for us, all us old heads, that's what was a huge belief in Lobo women's basketball. It was about defense. She starts off on a defensive drill. You have players talking, you have players pointing, you have players scrambling, helping, help the helper, all kinds of stuff, which was really, really nice to see. Obviously, a lot of new players when a new coach comes in and has to dig into the portal, but that's kind of every year now. But man, I just And then the fans that came, everybody was excited. They clapped, they cheered. There was high school coaches there. There was a lot of excitement with these young ladies and with Coach Eagan and her staff.
Yeah, so I think we got her back now. Let's get her back on stage.
No worries.
That was weird.
There she is.
Yeah.
She's back.
Well, one thing you have to understand about New Mexico is there's been some UFO sightings. There's maybe some things that happen, so you never know.
That had to be something, because I don't have no clue what happened right there.
That's all right.
Even Coach Eagan's laptop is burnt out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I'll transition this question to you, Coach Eagan. I just asked Coach Sanchez about just the first impression of having your open practice, having fans there, probably more fans than you guys expected to show up for first kind of introduction to the team. What was your first impression of having fans in the pit?
Wow. I mean, it was awesome. I've told a lot of people when we're recruiting this class and obviously the future, when I took the job and got the job, all I heard about was how many fans there were for Lobo, women's basketball, Lobo athletics, and how many people attended games. And so when we're recruiting these people to come play for us, and future classes to come play for us, that's something that's really big in the recruiting process. Not everybody gets to play in front of fans, right? It's almost uncommon these days for that to happen. And at New Mexico, you're going to play in front of fans. And so for me to be selling all these kids on that they're going to have that support, I think college basketball is really, really hard. And so when you talk about playing a sport that's really hard and having fans that come and support you every night, that just means something, And I think a lot of those relationships can go far beyond just the court. You're talking about women that when they graduate, that maybe meet people that give them opportunities for interviews within their career or different things like that. So I was really, really excited, really blessed, really thankful that so many people showed up. And I'm hoping that's a small portion of what we're going to see on November 2nd and going forward with stuff.
Yeah, well, if this is a sign for things to come, we're talking UNM women's basketball in June, heading into July. So it's basketball never sleeps in the state of New Mexico, so better get used to it. Kind of defining what Amy Eagan basketball is about, right? We haven't seen a team on the floor yet. Fans got a taste of what that looks like in an open practice, a lot of walkthroughs, but come October, November, when fans walk into the pit, I mean, 1 or 2 years down the road from now, what are some of the things Lobo fans are going to be able to recognize about Amy Eagan's basketball program that they're going to be able to talk about?
Yeah. I think when you start kind of the small scale stuff, first and foremost, you're going to see a group of young women that are great people. I mean, just great people, and people that they're going to work hard. They're going to be, they're going to wear that cherry red and that silver and that turquoise across their chest with pride. They're going to, offensively, when we talk about offensive stuff, we're going to share the ball really well. We're going to play together. We're going to play fast. And then when you talk about the defensive side of things, I mean, we want to get up and pressure. If we can, press a little bit here and there, we'll press a little bit here and there. And some of that depends a little bit on our personnel on that, but we're going to get up and pressure and try to force people into turnovers. And so you're going to see a great group of young women that I think, when you watch them, I think you will think that they're well coached. They take coaching really well, and they're just going to put a really good product out on the floor.
I got one more question, then I'm going to go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
I'd say, and a lot of that will resonate with how you and your staff teach and what you do. What is the biggest maybe stat for you that comes to mind? I mean, if it's, media timeout, they had to call a timeout, or what's the first thing you look at on the stat sheet?
Well, I'm going to tell you this, I'm really big on defense and rebounding. I mean, I think, I have always believed this, defense and rebounding, they win championships, right? Yep. I think offense can win you games, but I'm really big believer in defense and rebounding. And so I think, we'll look at some field goal percentage. I think that's a big tell and everything, along with balancing that with, how many turnovers we've forced, and then also our rebounding, whether that's offensive or defensive, those kind of things with it. So those are the primary stats that we're going to look at immediately in a timeout, just to see kind of where we're at. Like, are they shooting 80%. Well, that's way too high. We got to do better on the defensive end, and can we clean that up because we've given that up with offensive rebounds, like just different things that are going to first focus on defense, and then I say that, but I'm also going to let like, I really like the offensive side of the ball too, and I think you can really, obviously we want to be great defensively, great rebounding, but we can be good offensively as well, when we're doing those things. And I think that's been a characteristic of what we built at Lindenwood and what we're going to carry over here with stuff. But we do like offense too. And our offense is pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, that it is. And there's two sides of the ball. I mean, your kids, you'll help them understand, look, you can't have live ball turnovers. Because on the offensive side, then it leads to, or even bad shots. Yeah. If you throw up a bad shot and it has a long rebound, it leads to a possession for the other team and possibly, a transition. So, that's the discipline is there. That's excellent.
Yeah. We stat all practices. And so by the time we get to games and that, our kids as individuals know what's a good shot for them, what's a bad shot for them, because they've either proven it or not proven it in practice. Right. And so if you don't prove it in practice, you don't get to just do it in games. And so I think when you're able to do those things and have those conversations with kids and allow them, to develop their role in practice, but to play their role during the game, I think that you can really clean up a lot of those bad shots in that. And I think for us, we want kids, there's some teams right now and some programs right now that say you either take a 3 or you take a layup, right? Because it's a higher percentage shot, those kind of things. We're not like that. We want kids to play to their game, but they also have to prove to us that they can do that within what we do. And that all happens in practice. So I feel like we clean a lot of that up just by statting stuff in practice and having honest conversations with our kids.
It's funny you say that. I know, Eric, you got a bunch of questions, but I love talking basketball. Obviously the New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson, a 3-level score is so rare. And Steph Curry, I remember the last championship they won when I was watching it, they took him off the 3-point line and he had mid-range after mid-range after mid-range. And they won a championship. Yeah. And, it's just one of those things where analytics, I'm an old school, so analytics wasn't deep into, and I get the analytics, but it's a feel. And it's like you said, look, play to your strengths. If you're mid-range, if you're, whatever. So
I'm right there with you with that. Yeah. Some of my younger assistants are a lot more into that. I'm a lot more into what I see and what's been proven, in practice and those kind of things with it. But I know it's a big thing in the world we live in, and a really good thing too.
For sure.
I've just always been more of a feel and sight person.
For sure. All right, Eric, I guess you can join.
Yep. Finally. Yeah.
We'll allow you in.
I love it. No, I really love it. It's kind of sticking with the topic of offense, Coach Eagan, since you really like to put an offense together. But if, let's say I were to theoretically put a whiteboard in front of you right now, how would you describe your offensive philosophy? Are you more of like pace and space, a lot of ball movement, motion offense, heavy ball screens? How would you describe that?
So we're a lot of pace and space. It's the Princeton offense. So we run we call it elbow action. Ball goes into the high post. You run some actions off of it, but everything's off of reads. And so, depending on how the defense is playing you have a primary read and then a secondary read and sometimes another read. And then within that, we have our secondary offense that will use ball screens, dribble handoffs, those kind of things. And again, if we have a kid one of the point guards we brought in, it's been very evident to us that she's really good in ball screen action. So, we may throw some early ball screens in transition to put her in a position to be successful. It's just different things that we throw around that as they develop in our system, when we get to know them and a little bit more of their strengths and weaknesses, we can put them in positions to be successful. And I think that's a big part of it. You kind of develop and find out within your system who has some different strengths against different matchups. And so in games, we'll run different actions and talk about different actions prior to that we want to run within that Princeton that will expose them defensively or that'll put our kids in a position to be successful as individuals. So it is motion. I think, our kids really have enjoyed playing in it, the ones that we've had playing it, because it teaches you space and pace. You don't go one speed.
Yes.
And a lot of times that's hard for kids to
Yes.
understand. But if you can play with pace and space, man, you can be really, really successful. And then you add those reads in. So, that's really how it is. We've had at least 3 or 4 kids in double figures every night. Our kids share the ball. So it's not a lot of one-on-one. There's a time and place for that within it, but it's not a lot of one-on-one. And I really enjoy watching it too, just because it isn't a lot of one-on-one. They play together, and it's really some good basketball.
Yeah. The nice thing too about the evolution of any offense, but the offense that you want to run is once you get it early and it's repetitive and repetitive and repetitive, then they start breaking off a little bit, slips, twirls. They start really learning each other. And it's like, hey, look, she's going over the top. I'm going to flare, on the baseline. Or, hey, they're trailing the heck out of me. I'm curling backside space away so you can just spot up, because if they come, you got it. It's a lot of fun to develop, especially the Princeton and the concepts of it. And even ball screens, you can go to open side, you can go to, middle, anything with a roll or a pop. And it's hard to guard when they start learning each other.
Yeah, I agree. And, right now I feel like they're a little bit robotic with us, and we haven't even gotten into the hard stuff, right? It's really kind of basic right now, which we're going to get the basics down first. But once they get that down and we can develop on it, and like Yvonne said, just put them in positions where it's pick and pop or just different actions in that, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the pit can get behind a fun offense, especially a lot of shooters. You can see like the momentum definitely picks up, and Coach Yvonne Sanchez can kind of attest to that. But flip into the other side of the court now, the defensive identity. Like you just mentioned, defense and rebounding wins you championships. How would you kind of describe your defensive philosophy? Are you one to kind of put a lot of pressure on ball, kind of create that havoc and just kind of throw teams off rhythm? Or are you more like drop it back, protect the rim sort of defense? How would you approach the defensive side?
Yeah. So I've been, I think, very fortunate that throughout my career, I've done a lot of different defensive stuff. When I was at Drury, we pressed for 40 minutes a game, led the country in turnovers forced, all that kind of stuff. Now you have to have the right kids to do that. And when we got to Lindenwood, we didn't have the right kids to do that. So we had to kind of back it off and change it a little bit. But we want to get up in pressure. If we can get up in pressure, we want to get up in pressure, but we also don't want to play crazy. We want to contain them. I tell our kids this, like that if we can pressure and be great one-on-one defenders, then we don't have to rotate as much, right? Then you're not giving the defense as much advantage. We're going to try to keep them out of the middle of the floor. We're going to force them or shade them. I don't want to say force, but shade them baseline with stuff. And that's really how we'll handle things. And that's really what we're working on right now with stuff. So we have a bunch of different like X cutting on the backside and different, things that we do defensively out of that to put our kids in a good position. Our guards will always front in the post. So we have a lot of things out of it that we can do, but we can also change things based off the teams we play and what we feel like. If there's something that we're going to struggle with, we'll change how we guard. We usually switch 1 through 4 and stay with the 5. We've also switched 1 through 5. We've also switched 1 through 3 and stayed with the 4 and 5. So it kind of depends. We can shift it around based off of who we play.
Yeah, that's excellent. And it's funny because it's going to be scout specific.
Yeah.
So to have the base and the kids really understand, okay, this is our base, this is our philosophy. With the scramble and the help and the switching, but you could have a team where you're playing and you want to force baseline sideline, but this particular team is opening that side for an ISO, so it's like, hey, we're going to force middle to the help, whatever that might be. So it's good because your base. I mean, it was excellent. I was telling Eric, starting with your defensive drill, it was help the helper. People were pointing, people were talking, people were in position. You took some charges, and your kids know how to take a charge. They don't get out of the way. They don't turn their hip. They stay right in front. They protect themselves and they take it. And, when someone fell down, everybody's lifting them up because they got excited for defense just as much as a 3-point shot.
Yep. Yeah. And, a big thing for us starting out this year is going to be, every year, but like, we really, really got to understand the defensive side of the ball until even better than the offensive side, because the offensive side takes a little bit longer. I mean,
Yeah.
The first year we put this offense in, I remember we played our first scrimmage at Lindenwood, and oh my gosh, we just looked bad. They just looked lost, And I remember Jordan, my associate head coach, going, "Man, I don't know about this, coach." I'm like, "It's going to be great. Let's just stay with it. I could just see it, I'm like, it's going to be great." And, by the end of the year, went to the WNIT Super 16 because people couldn't guard it, because the kids just learned it and they just worked at it and they got in the flow of it. And so it's going to take us a little bit of time here to feel like that and to get in that flow. But we do have the right kids that want to learn. Yeah. And I mean, yesterday we had practice and we walked out of practice and it was just, it was a hard practice. It was a lot of stuff, new stuff for them to learn. And then today we did almost the same thing. And it was amazing from yesterday to today, how much they grew with it, And so I look back at day one to now, and that's been 8 practices, and we have just leaps and bounds with it. But it will be a complete different offensive team at the beginning of the year to the defensive year. Sure. I know you should be that every year. I know everybody says that every year, but in a brand new system, it's really going to look different.
And the nice thing too is you get to pick your kids, because in the day and age where a new coach comes in, everybody leaves, a couple people stay. So now you got to go, okay, well, these are the kids that we want here, because then they fit what I want to do. Yeah. And, if people hate the transfer portal, whatever, it's here to stay. There's not much you can do about it. So you embrace it and you go, this is what we're going to do. And you fit this because I see you as this. I see you as this. Longer the days 1 through 5. I don't like positionless. I just don't like that term, because I think everybody has a role. But at the end of the day, you can, and kids are so good at adapting in this day and age because of and as much basketball as they play, that you can get some in and just say, look, this is where I see you. This is your role, and be the best player you can be at your role.
And it's crazy that you say a little bit of that too, because I went this past weekend and I went and recruiting, and I watched this kid, and oh my gosh, she's so good. I'm like, oh, I love this kid. She's so good, but I don't think she could play in our system. Yeah. She's just more of a one-on-one kid. Yep. I don't think she could play with the pace and space and that kind of stuff. So even though she's one heck of a player, not every kid fits your system and what you want to do. So, so that's sometimes hard for the audience to understand, and sometimes the crowd and that kind of stuff. But we always want to put kids in a really good position to be successful in college. So part of that is making sure that they understand how we play and making sure they can see themselves in our system, and we also can see them in it.
But I tell you what, that's the most important, because I've known some coaches that say, well, I'll sign them, we'll figure it out later. And it never figured out. And, those could be some tough locker room kids. And it's just, I think when you get your system and you find kids that fit that, that's what that program was pretty much built on. It was a system that Coach Flanagan had, that I had, that we just said, look, and even before that, but it was just one of those where look, we like these kids, but, I just don't think they fit. Yeah. And then we get this kid, and it's, it proves that, shoot, no one recruited him, or they had the chip on the shoulder because the Power Fives didn't, and they helped us beat those teams. Yep. So I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely.
Let's stay on that recruiting kind of topic, Coach. Let's say you are evaluating a player, whether that be a high school level player or maybe someone that hits the transfer portal. When you're evaluating them, what basketball habits or things are you looking for specifically in that player that helps you kind of, okay, this player would fit what we're trying to do at New Mexico. They would understand the concepts and things like that. What do you look for?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is that I really, really like to see kids play in person. That's just really kind of who I am as a recruiter. It's really hard for me to take a kid that I haven't seen in person. So even now when we're going out recruiting, the portal's a little bit different because you have some film on them and that kind of stuff. But even now when we're going out recruiting, I'm watching a ton of kids and we're taking notes on a ton of kids in case they would happen to go in the portal if they don't play for us, those kind of things. So I just think it's really important. But I also think like a part of seeing them in person, you can find out a lot of things about them, how they handle themselves when it's hard, how they interact with their coach, how they interact on the bench. And all that's really important to us. We want good people in our program, and we want to know that we can coach them hard, that they're going to respond well, and or like they're going to take some teaching moments and some coaching and those kind of things with it. I'm always attracted to kids that can shoot. I like it if they have the ability to stroke it. Like I even want our fives to be able to shoot it, because we can run some of that pick and pop, and they're out on the floor a lot and they get to touch a lot in the post. So in the high post. So that I'm always, if a kid shoots it, I always like that, because I think it helps spread the floor in that offense with it. Kids that work hard, you got to have a high motor. Okay. You can't just play offense and not play defense. Those kids, they just don't mesh very well with me. You gotta have a high motor, both ends of the floor. And then I typically watch kids more than once, because I want to see how they play against one team and then how they play against a different level. And high IQ kids, man, I really like high IQ kids. I can tell kids, if kids are going to not make the right pass because they're too worried about scoring the ball, they're probably not going to be a kid that I'm going to be attracted to out there. So high IQ kids that always make the right pass, and I shouldn't say always, but majority of the time make the right pass, make the right decisions, those kind of things.
What impressed me about the open practice is you attracted really good teammates. So, you have that in it, but, people picked each other up. Someone, I think I remember a kid, I think either made a bad pass or something happened, and everybody went, hey, it's all right. Hey, you're good. Hey, high five, a lot of touches. And I think that's important, especially establishing and building a program anywhere you have. And you've done that for several programs.
Yeah.
But to get a good teammate, hey, I know you're a good player, you're a good kid, you got a high IQ, got to be a good teammate.
Yeah.
Got to be a good teammate. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. One of our core values is to be a great teammate. And, I really believe, so we do a thing almost every day with them, and we call it life skills, like personal growth, life skills, how-to days. And it can be anything. One day we taught them how to change a tire, not here yet, but we've done that in the past. Like it can be anything that can carry over in your life. But like a few of the first ones that we do are about what it looks like to be a great teammate, because not every kid, number one, is taught that. Not every kid has had that. Not every kid knows what that looks like, right? And so I think if you don't teach kids like what your standards are, what it looks like to be a great teammate, a lot of them may not even know. Right. So we always say drip, 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 like continuously throughout the year. We're dripping it on them. We're sending them, this is what it is, or videos or talks or whatever. And I think if you do those things, eventually, hopefully they'll get something from it. Right. And that's something they can carry into life, because you got to be a teammate in life, And so we talk about those things consistently in our program, and we teach those things consistently in our program. And, that's where we spent a lot of our time here in this first, couple weeks together, is what that looks like. And our kids are really buying into it. You have to have kids that buy into it, and they are. And, culture to me is like not something you talk about. It's who you are every single day, like how you act, how you treat people, how you respond, all that kind of stuff. That's culture, how you live it. Right. And so, you can't really speed up culture, but you can be intentional with your culture. Right. And so I am a big believer in culture off the floor is important for on the floor. And so, our kids we talk to them about being intentional in that off the floor, spending time together. And you can already see they're starting to get to know each other, and forming some of that that's going to help them on the floor when times are tough. And so that's just a big part of our program and how we do things.
That's huge. I remember years ago, I was setting up a recruiting itinerary, and, we were talking about the kid coming in, and, I was telling the team, hey, look, we're going to be at this football game. We're going to be in the tailgate. Don't go off with your friends. This is an important recruit. And Chelsea Greer, I'll never forget, says, Coach, we don't have any friends. These are our friends. And it was the coolest thing I think I've ever heard. And I'm like, And I'm sure they had other friends, but they were just so bonded and so in. So you're right. You could talk culture, you could say that, but it's gotta be there.
Well, I think it's something pretty cool too. Like, we've done a couple alumni Zooms
Yeah.
with the alumni from here, and just having them get on there and talk about, seeing each other and spending time with each other and that kind of stuff. I have a group of women that 20 years ago, there's like probably 4 teams combined. Every year, once a year, they get together and hang out with each other, and like it's just so cool in life to like have those people in your corner. If you need to be picked up, it's a text message away, even when you don't get to see each other every day and that. And so I do think a lot of the teammates that people have in college, end up becoming lifelong friends. And I think it's they're just great to have, it's just something that I think is really special about college athletics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The reality of sports, or how special sports are in creating those friendships and lifelong friends and life lessons too, right? Like you mentioned it earlier, Coach, with how does a player kind of react when things aren't going their way, when they have to face adversity? Those are life lessons in a lot of ways too. Yeah. But I'm actually going to go to the crowd on this, and we actually had a good question come in from one of our viewers. So from Fly to Sky 505, hi Coach, how do you define success for a season? Are there certain milestones you're looking to accomplish in your first season?
Yeah. So success for us is growing not only as players, but as people. And by the end of the year, being the best person, the best student, and the best player that we can be, and combine that with being the best team that we can be. I don't know what this team is going to be capable of yet, but what I do know is that we're going to try to get every ounce out of them that we can and help them grow in every single area, so that at the end of the year, there's not going to be any, oh, I wish this or I wish that. No, we did it, and then whatever that looks like, wins and losses, that's just what we're going to take, as long as we become the best that we can be. Now, do I think we have some talent? Yeah. And are we every year recruiting to win Mountain West championships and go to the NCAA tournament? Yeah, we are. There's no doubt about that. Like that's the standard we want, right? But every year there's a lot of things that go into winning, and some things you can't control. If there's an injury in your program some years, that can change the whole outlook. Last year we had our starting 2 guard go down in January with an ACL, and we were lucky that we were able to rebound, and we had a freshman who's actually here with us now, Val, step up big time for us. But it doesn't always happen that way. So, a lot of teams, unfortunately, are 1 injury away or 2 injuries away, and it can change the whole outlook of your season. So we approach it as a process. It's a process every single day. We're coming in here to be the best that we can be. And we'll see at the end of the year where that takes us.
Coach, I'm not sure how we're doing on time. I definitely want to be respectful of that. But Coach Sanchez, do you have any more that you want to fire off to Coach Eagan?
Talking X and O's is a lot of fun, and talking about your team is a lot of fun. It was a great question. And you're right. When, your kids, from what I saw, they leave everything out on the floor. And, when that happens, you can live with the results. And most of the time, the results are really, really good with that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll wrap up, and then they'll go home in August, and be able to spend some time, and then you get back. Once, middle of August hits, they're back. How much time do you give them before you start getting in? Do you give them a week to get through school, or do you just, let's go? Yes. Yeah.
Hey, they'll be back. They'll probably move in on Saturday or something. Well, they're already moved in. So
yeah,
I take a break, be back on Saturday and Sunday. We'll start Monday morning,
Yeah. Then how would that process work? Will you go back to kind of square one? Will you see where they're at? Or just evolving with what you left off?
Yeah, we're hoping, we'll talk to them a lot before they leave about, watching film and trying to retain as much as they can of what we've been through. That's always the challenge when you're removed from it. But we want them to retain as much as they can so that we don't have to start back from square one. Right. And again, I think with this group, we'll be okay in those areas, but we will have to review, stuff. Yeah. But I hope it's going to be a quick couple of days of review, and
Yeah.
then we're going to be able to just, continue to build from where we were.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I think, for all the alumni and getting on those Zooms, they're so excited. Doing the Lobo Legends for me is so exciting because I get to talk to those guys again. But it's just, hey, if you can help out with a 3-point club, and whoever's listening to this, find it online, help with a 3-point club. I mean, the support has to be there because it's so different than it was even 5 years ago. I mean, when I was at the University of Michigan, I mean, Naz Hillman would have probably made $2 million. And, bless her heart, she's like, Ches, where am I? But now it's like you said, I mean, people are being overpaid, and I'll say it. I mean, players are overpaid, and they have the ability to, kind of just negotiate with different coaches and say, well, they're offering me this and they're offering me this. I still do believe, and I've talked to a few of my friends that are coaches, the relationship aspect is still important. And I know with you and your staff, they're very, very relationship based. Mm-hmm. Yeah, kids are going to get money, and that's what you have to do. And that's what the support from the former players, the alumni, the staff, whoever, the fans, if you can help out with that 3-point club. But I still think with you, the relationship piece is important. And that's, to me, what gets those championships. Yeah. It's not the talent per se. It's not, but it's the relationship piece, because they're getting everything else. But now they're going to be able to trust you. And they're going to say, look, I mean, money, fine. But, man, it's cool to go to the NCAA tournament. It's great to win a first game. You're in the Sweet 16. And I get people are saying, well, only Power Fives are getting there. That doesn't have to be.
Right.
It really doesn't. People can get lucky. People can get, mid-majors can get that quick break. They can play the game that just propelled some of those teams out of the tournament. And I really like the relationship-based piece that you and your staff have with your players.
Yeah. And that is really important to us. I always say we live in a very transactional world. And it's part of it. It's just part of it. But we're always going to keep it transformational with our kids. And, I think you hit it on the head too. Like, if people don't know, New Mexico is an amazing place. And, it's crazy how many kids we had, whether it was the portal or right now we're having a lot of 27s on campus, and that they come on campus and just fall in love with this place. And, it's just special. I mean, like I said, the tradition here, the ability to play in front of the people here, how much New Mexico, Albuquerque loves the Lobos. Like, it's just really, really special place. The people make it that. And so, we have the ability to steal some high level kids, with it. You got to get the right ones, but we have the ability to do those things. And, that's what we're going to work really hard to do. And at the same time, we also understand that money does play a little bit of a factor with it. So we've got great support. We got to keep building that so that we can keep doing what we want to do.
Yeah, I just think the world of Ryan Berryman. I mean, he was a student manager when I was there, but the guy was just so high level. He was always so high level. He was always thinking. He was built for what he's at now, and I absolutely love Ryan. So I was praying. I was doing everything I could. I'm like, just give him a chance, man. Give him a chance. And obviously, you know how I feel about Amy Eagan. It was funny. Coach and I were in AAUs were still big back then with the club tournaments. And I think maybe we were at, I don't know, end of the trail somewhere. But we love North Tartan kids, and we always, Bill Larson is a dear friend. I just talked to him the other day. But, I went and saw them. And I think, I was watching another team. Coach was watching. And I go, I think we found our point guard. He goes, that little one from the North Tartan? I go, yes, Amy Eagan. So, because we were recruiting another kid, Hannah Skildum, who went to Colorado, and and we were fortunate enough to get Amy, and she's just awesome. She's awesome.
Those two, of course, coming down here, I love the facilities. I loved everything about it. But one of the big reasons I took this job is because of those two, and they are, no lie, some of the best people. And their love for this place, it just penetrates everyone, and that's really cool when you have that. You have those people in your corner and those people representing the university. And so it's been great.
Good. Yeah, I definitely want to be respectful for Coach Egan's time. But if you're listening out there, the 3 Point Club people, get online, get to the 3 Point Club, give little, give lots, give whatever you can give, but help this program out because it is going to be special, not only this year, but for many years to come.
And I was going to say with that too, our lowest level in that, which I think is going to be really cool, is coffee and donuts with Coach Egan and some of my staff, and we're going to do some film breakdowns, some film give the people that join that a little insight into some secret stuff, with it. And so I think it's going to be a lot of fun when we have those. So again, any support that you can give, we definitely appreciate it. But if you're able to, we could definitely use it.
Very cool. Yeah, I think the UNM athletics is in really good hands. Mm-hmm. I think the trajectory for UNM athletics and the university in entirety is on the rise. Everything that's happening within the pit with you and Coach Olin, and then across the street with Coach Eck. Yeah. The softball team had a really good season. Baseball did too. I think, there's definitely an excitement. And when you said that Lobo Nation loves their Lobos, I think that's an understatement because it's more than love at this point. But I'm going to wrap this up, Coach. I have a few kind of rapid fire questions just to keep it a little lighthearted before we let you go. What is your go-to song, your go-to pregame song?
Oh, my go-to pregame song. Well, I don't listen to a ton of music. I would say I listen to probably a little bit more Christian music and get my mind right for where I need to be with that. Last year was, I don't have probably anything that's set with anything. Last year was Lion. And you can look that up if you want to look that up. But I wouldn't say it's like I'm not a superstitious person. I have to deal with that with one of my assistants, and I just although he tells me it's staying in a rhythm or keeping everything consistent, not superstition. But so I'm not superstitious. So I don't have a complete song that I listen to for sure every time.
Okay. Next one is any coach, dead or alive, that you would like to have dinner with.
Pat Summit. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay. Favorite baseline out of bounds action?
Baseline out of bounds action. We mix it up every time. I like rip action. Some rip action.
Yeah. Okay, anything that lastly, gets a layup.
Yeah, I mean that's going to get us a layup a lot of times, but
the one that works.
Yeah,
and then last one, I'll give you a softball here. But what is your final message to Lobo Nation? Here we are, June heading into July. Fans that want to get involved, how do they get involved, and what can they expect from Coach Eagan's season number 1?
Yeah. Well, I mean, getting involved, there's a lot of ways to get involved, whether it's when you want to contribute financially or you want to contribute just through support. We're going to have more like open practices and different things heading into the fall with stuff. We'll have some exhibitions in that. I'd love to just get you around our women and give you the opportunity to meet with them. Anytime we have anything, we'd love people there, but I know the support is there, and I know we're getting and we're growing that. And so we just want to continue to do that. We want to continue to get our name out there and continue to grow that and get the support. I think, for us, we're very, very appreciative already of everyone and anyone that has shown support for our program. We're always an attitude of gratitude. And I think when you have an attitude of gratitude, things are going to continue to go up. So that's really our message is thank you guys. Thank you guys, Eric, Yvonne, for everything that you've already done. There's so many people that have reached out, have contributed already, and we just want to keep that going.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we won't be strangers very long. We'll probably get you back on, check up on the season, and we'll bother Allison to get some players on too, because I think Lobo Nation wants to be introduced to them and find out who they are, tell their story. So thanks again for joining us on a Tuesday night. We appreciate it, and good luck to you this season and this summer.
Thank you.
Go get them.
We'll see you guys.
we're going to go to a quick commercial break. I think Nick Nunez is going to join us just to give us a recap of the men's open practice. Coach Sanchez, if you want to stay on, feel free. If not, that's okay. But we're going to go to a quick commercial break.
Okay, yeah.
We'll
all right,
talk
thanks,
to you
Eric.
later.
All right.
Yep.
Hold on tight. It's time again for the ride of your life at Capital Ford. And the ride of your life begins now with great low payments on a new 2026 Ford Bronco Sport. Buy for as low as $399 a month. Or a new 2026 Ford Maverick. Also buy for as low as $399 a month. And you need to buckle up because Ford employee pricing is now available during our Ride of Your Life event at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Finishing up with head women's basketball coach, New Mexico, Coach Amy Eagan. What a really fun conversation, Nick. I'm not sure if you had a chance to tune into that, but you were making your way back from the pit, man. How was that?
It was great, man. You know, first to your conversation with Coach Eagan along with Coach Yvonne Sanchez. What a great interview, man. I mean, to have a former UNM women's basketball coach interview the current UNM women's basketball coach, thought they touched on a lot of topics, a lot of good basketball talk, and just overall excitement for what Amy Eagan's going to bring this next season. I think she's going to bring a different brand of basketball to a program that needs to be rejuvenated. So I share her sentiment about the 3-point club. We'll have to spread that message, Eric. But UNM men's basketball open practice today at the Pit from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. It was great, man. It was great. You know, some notable guys not in attendance. Chris Howell, and I was told by UNM men's basketball's SID, Steve Kirkland, Chris Howell is missing practice this week, man, because he's getting married back in San Diego. So congratulations to Chris and his soon-to-be wife. Coach Olin gave him the excuse this week to miss some off-season workouts and couldn't be more excited for Chris Howell. But Chris Howell was not there in attendance. Finn Lastring, the 6'10 center commit from Germany, is not here yet. Spoke with UNM's SID, Steve Kirkland. He said that Finn Lastring is still trying to get his visa situation in order. UNM is optimistic that he could possibly be here next week, if not the week after. It was encouraging to see Federico Grani. That's the other post player that committed out of the professional league in Italy. He's about 6'9". He got here, I think, last week, and he was out in practice. Looked like he was moving pretty well, man. So that's kind of the big names as to who was there, who wasn't there. Practice was great, man. They got up and down. Not a ton of contact drills. I think we saw two, one that was more designed for defense, one that was more designed for offense. But honestly, man, it was a good turnout. And that was the thing I think you commented on the photos that I took. Good turnout of fans that just came out to watch and see this new team. So a lot of excitement, man, for sure.
Just from like a general basketball perspective, I think you're a good evaluator. I know it's probably a lot of open floor drills, not a lot of action, ghost defense, that sort of thing. But one of the things I noticed at the first practice that me and your dad attended at the Davalos Center was there's definitely a lot more length on this year's roster than there was last year. And I think there was a lot of guys that kind of fit that mantra, which is like kind of like a positionless player. They're kind of flexible anywhere from like the 2 or the 3 to the 4 type position, guys that are interchangeable. And I don't know if positionless is the right word to use, but I think there's a lot of guys that can fit a lot of different roles on this team. I don't know if anything kind of piqued your interest regarding that at open practice, but what did you think about what I just said?
To your point, man, to the guys that I talked to, so I did get to interview 4 players before practice. I spoke with Hudson Mays for about 5 minutes or so. I spoke with Dax Hall a little bit, spoke with Tunde Valberg Fasasi, the transfer from William and Mary, and I spoke to Imran Soljanovic, the redshirt freshman transfer from St. John's. And to your point, Eric, all of those guys kind of fit that mold of such a versatile wing that can, I mean, obviously on the offensive end, they can attack the basket, they can shoot the three, they're skilled offensive players. But what they also bring is defense and rebounding. And that's one thing I talked to Hudson Mays about when I chatted with him. He said that, last year for UC San Diego, I think he averaged around 5 rebounds per game. I'll have to check that. But he was one of the leading rebounders on the team. He said that's a phase of his game that he really embraces. He looks forward to being guarded and guarding smaller guards out there next season for the Lobos, and thinks that will give him an advantage in getting some rebounds both on the offensive and defensive end. So you got a guy like him, a guy like Imran Soljanovic, the transfer from St. John's, hurt last year at the beginning of the season, but he talked to me about his versatility on the offensive end. If you look at some of the highlight tape that we shared in our article on our website, he's a knockdown three-point shooter, man. Just in volume, a quick release, and he's 6'7", 6'8". So I think there's a lot to be excited with him too. And yeah, man, the length was on display. They've always been traditionally long at like that wing guard position. Think about a guy like Luke Hopt last year. This year you got some of those guys that I just mentioned. Another guy, Rytis Petraitis, the transfer from Cal, who lit the Lobos up back in February of 2024. He's not fully cleared yet. And Eric, I know you and my dad had him on a few weeks ago. I think he told you guys the same thing that Steve Kirkland reiterated to me today was if the Lobos had a game next week, Petraitis would probably find a way to get cleared and get on the floor. But it's the summer. There's no reason to rush it. And I think that's the same precaution being taken with Imran Soljanovic, the St. John's transfer. He is not fully cleared yet, but he was participating in shooting drills today. So I think it's going to take some time for this team to get together, man. I mean, they're still waiting on Finn Lastring. Grani just got here. So, these guys are learning each other for the first time, but I think some team bonding has been going on. They've been together for about a month. And it's encouraging out there, Eric, the versatility that's on the floor.
Yeah, the versatility. And then I would also say like the veterans on this squad too. You talk about the characteristics that some of these guys hold with being able to lead their teams. Like we know what Chris Howell can do, his ability to kind of be a coach on the floor and kind of portray what Coach Olin wants to do on the court, kind of teach these guys the next phase. And then, I mean, talking with Rytis Petraitis, he's kind of just a spitting image of that exact type player, but he's going to be very elusive. He kind of brings the 3 elements to his scoring game. Good inside, good mid-range, can extend the defense, shoot the 3. But he's also kind of the defensive hustle guy, the glue guy that a Luke Hopt was. So I think I compared him after that conversation with your dad. I compared him to a Luke Hopt, but kind of with more of an offensive mindset, maybe a guy that's looking to attack more. I think Luke Hopt was a little limited to just being kind of closer to the rim, but Rytis Petraitis can extend the defense, and he's a smart basketball IQ type player. So I think there's a lot of exciting, interesting pieces that Coach Olin brought in. Obviously, you want to see how they all kind of come together, how the chemistry develops, but the time is now for that sort of thing to develop, the off-court relationships that these guys build. But some key pieces coming back, Jake Hall, Uriah Tenet, guys like that. So I think this is the roster I'm impressed with. Obviously, it's just names on a piece of paper right now, but I don't know if you have anything else to add or anything kind of coming out that you might be writing to kind of cover this, or you mentioned doing a little bit more of that over the summer.
On the guys that I talked to, I wanted to get the chance to talk to Coach Olin. I got there a little bit late because of traffic, and talked to the players. By the time I kind of got outside. Coach Olin was grabbed by somebody else. But yeah, man, I think just kind of general overall excitement. I don't have anything specific to report, just it's a little more context, Eric, for what's going on with this team right now. They're allowed 8 hours of basketball related activities per week. And what I was told by UNM's SID, how that's interpreted is that, anything that involves coaching, instruction on the floor, that's considered a basketball related activity. And that could also be film breakdown as well. So they have limited time to put everything in. In a perfect world, maybe you have these guys a little bit longer to practice, to build some things in, but they're learning each other. Coach Olin actually cut the practice a little bit short. They were supposed to go 6 to 7. He cut it around 6:52, 6:53 in his comments to the 100+ fans in attendance. I don't know how many there were, Eric. I would say a couple hundred. But he was like, we're still getting these guys in shape. And, I did talk to a couple of the guys about that. Tunde Valberg Fasasi said he had to get adjusted to the elevation. He played at William and Mary in Virginia last year. So he's got to make that adjustment. Dax Hall commented on getting used to the elevation. So they're getting their lungs from under them, learning each other, Eric. But we'll have a couple more open practices, man. I think we'll have at least one more open practice to the fans in July. And I think media may get to attend one more. So looking forward to going to those, Eric.
Oh, you answered Steve Singletary's question. Thanks for chiming in, Steve. But Nick, man, I don't have too much. I think it's really kind of hard to put any stamp on anything with this basketball program. You don't win a Mountain West championship in June. But the pieces are there. I think we're still waiting on a few guys to come. One guy's getting married, so I wonder what would have happened if Olin would have said he couldn't have missed this practice to make it out to his own wedding. But I will leave that for another day. But any other comments on either Coach Eagan or basketball? But I'm kind of running out of things to do here, so I think we can call it a night.
For sure. I think a big piece of news in college athletics, and I'll just touch on this real quick, Eric, because we're coming up on an hour.
Yep.
But it seems like the Division I board of directors for the NCAA elected the 5-for-5 eligibility rule going into effect for next season. That was reported by Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports. And what essentially my understanding of what that means, Eric, is now starting 2026-2027 season, you get 5 years to play 5 seasons. And they're doing away with red shirts, medical red shirts, all that kind of stuff. That's just what it means, is my understanding on a general level. My understanding is that it will not apply to players that exhausted their eligibility last year. There was chatter at the practice today. I won't say by who. Was, does Dent have another year? Would he want to come back and play? My understanding is this 5-for-5 eligibility only applies going forward for 26-27. And I'll have to do some homework and, think about, how many more years does this guy have left? I'll have to figure all that out. But I think that was a big piece of news. Eric, I did ask Steve Kirkland, is this going to affect any of the current roster? He says he doesn't believe that it will. And so, yeah, man, I think that is pretty significant. And what are your thoughts on that, man? Now a guy could technically be in college basketball for 5 seasons, starting when he's a freshman, doing away with the red shirts and kind of getting away from some of these older professionals. We think about Tomislav Buljan, who was 23 this year. The guy that's playing for Grand Canyon, Tyler Barron, he's like 26 or 27. So they want to keep college athletics, as young and traditional as they possibly can under these rules. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think finally there's some guardrails with this. There's just some structure that programs can follow, because before that it was kind of just throw something in the wall and hope it sticks without real guidance, and it was follow the lead. It was kind of like a domino effect, so there wasn't really any control. The wildest things were happening, man, and it was hard to follow. And at the end of the day, with how everything was rolling out, the budgets, the money that was being talked about with NIL and what you could play players and revenue share, and having a cap on revenue share, and having NIL kind of be the overflow with that, and being able to recruit professional players overseas. And even I think there were some players that had played in the NBA, gotten drafted, that played in the developmental league and were trying to commit. I think there was a player that committed to Grand Canyon. Is it Bailey? Am I thinking of the right player
Bailey,
there?
I think.
Yeah. So things like that is just, it's wild. And it's the old format of the NCAA in college sports is completely gone. So you almost have to rebuild it and have some governments and some guidelines to at least have a structure, some rules to follow. Because if this were to keep kind of going down that path, then you start to see high school recruits kind of phase out of the picture too. Maybe they start taking more of a junior college or NCAA Division II or Division III route just to see the court or see the field somewhere, because these older players were going to be coming out and building a brand new roster every year. So it was just kind of all over the place and just turning into a big mess. And the NCAA also kind of keeping themselves safe from having to pay. I think that's also a big piece to it, because they were making a ton of profit. You think about events like the football bowl series, the championship series, you think about March Madness and all the money that the NCAA was making that wasn't being paid to the student athletes who were technically the product on the floor of the court. So I think there's all going to come a level set here, and this might be one of those key foundational steps to kind of get it there. So I think eventually there's probably going to be some type of collective bargaining to meet in the middle to make sure it's fair on both sides. But it's just not going to happen overnight, man. I think this has been going on with the last 3 years already. So just really hard to follow, really hard to track. And it's hard to imagine where a school like UNM kind of fits in all this too. Like, are they going to be able to sustain it, right? Or the schools that are not part of the Power Four, are they going to be able to afford to actually field a team or field all the sports that they currently sponsor now? So I think there's a lot of things that weigh in here, and like I said, just not going to get solved right away.
Man. Yeah, dude. And then, I mean, this comment from John Romero, we don't got to go too deep into it. This does affect high school sports. Any thoughts on the NMA transfer rule? And because by vote of the schools that the NMA oversees, now student athletes starting in the 26-27 season are allowed a one-time transfer. Now, if they transfer in the middle of their athletic season, I still believe they will be ineligible. I'll have to double check that. But this is huge, Eric. This is huge, man. Like, this pretty much means if you're unhappy with the program that you're playing in any sport, girls soccer, women's track, I mean, boys basketball, football, baseball, I mean, you can transfer once and you can be immediately eligible for varsity competition. I mean, people were just finding their ways around the old rules. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of mixed feelings about it. You played at Capital, pretty much a bigger school up in Santa Fe. But there's schools down south, smaller towns that are like our best players are going to get plucked. How do you feel about it, man?
Well, I remember that being attempted when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But the governance came down on it and was like, if you're going to transfer, you have to sit out a year. So I remember kids transferring in and out, players transferring from like Espanola to play at Capital, right? But they physically had to move. So I think there were some stipulations or some things in place to actually kind of bypass some of the rules. And I mean, how valid some of that stuff was. I think there was just a lot of things being moved around to just make sure players or student athletes were becoming eligible. I know the Harper Dunn case was really big last summer when she transferred from, I'm forgetting the school that she went to before, but now she's at Albuquerque Academy. So kind of the same scenario. If this rule was in effect last year, that wouldn't have been anything. Like, she would have been immediately eligible and could have played.
For sure, man.
So I don't know. It's hard to say if the NMAA is kind of opening a can of worms with that. I think it's going to fall back on how closely you can get it regulated and really holding some of those student athletes accountable. Like, if you did transfer once and you try to transfer again, how firm are they going to be with kind of holding people to that and things like that? So it'll be interesting how it shakes up, but you consider some of the power schools, right? Like the La Cuevas of the world, the Cleveland, Rio Rancho, Volcano Vista. Like, you think about football and basketball, like, are these schools going to somewhat turn into power high schools because you're kind of getting players transferring to school to just kind of build a unbelievable roster?
Yeah, dude, I think that's a good point. And then I was talking to Will Weber about this. I was like, what if it had the opposite effect, though? What if, like, you know, good players at La Cueva or, you know, a Trisco Heritage or some other big school feel like they should get more opportunities to play, more playing time. And the other school, that's the other thing that the NMA is going to crack down with on this, Eric, is they're really going to go after tampering very aggressively, man. They're going to go after tampering. Any school coach that tries to tamper with another student athlete and encourage them to come to their school because of this new one-time transfer rule, they're really going to go after that. But assuming that, you know, nobody's tampering, maybe some good players from some of the bigger schools like La Cueva, Trisco Heritage say, you know what, let me go see if I can get some more playing time at Rio Grande. And then, you know, maybe teams that are struggling, Coach Ishloya at Rio Grande has been doing a great job over there, building that program back. But maybe schools like that have a chance. Who knows, man? I think we got to give it a year or two to see how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, but here's a theoretical thought, or maybe just something to provoke you a little bit. But at what point does the state of New Mexico, or even the NMA, consider like NIL becoming a thing in high school sports? Because that's also a thing in other states right now where it's actually into law now, and high school athletes can make NIL. So you think about a one-time transfer rule and someone offering you some money to go play somewhere and you're 16, 17 years old. It's really wild to think about, and I don't think we're at that point yet. But David Fresca's comment, I think he makes a really good point here. It's important to think about the kids should be students first, right? I think that's important, and kind of a side note in all of this, if you really think about it.
Yeah, dude. No, I think so for sure, man. Hopefully, you know, it's a good thing for kids, and gives them the freedom to try to maximize their high school careers. So hopefully we can look at it that way, man. As far as anything else, you know, I talked to Steve. We had made a request to have Hudson Mays on the show. You and my dad did a fantastic job interviewing Ritas Petritis a couple weeks ago. Hopefully Hudson Mays can join us in the next couple weeks. I did get to talk to him a little bit, but great kid, man, really humble. Really hoping we get a few minutes with him. Yeah, man, it's been we've still been covering it. It's the summer. We had Coach Amy Eagan on tonight and went to the UNM men's basketball practice today. So we're still working hard, man.
Yeah, got some written pieces coming out here soon. But yeah, covering women's basketball. We've had 3 episodes out with Coach Yvonne Sanchez. So if you hadn't had a chance to watch all those, go back and revisit some really cool memories of UNM women's basketball, the Legend series. The Ritas Petritis interview was a fun one too. And yeah, we'll continue doing this. I would think can stay consistent over about 1 or 2 a week. We got some written content coming out again too. So more to come. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another episode of the Press Live. Nick, I hope you had a good time at the open practice, man. So for Nick Nunez and Eric Moulton, Coach Amy Eagan, and Coach Yvonne Sanchez, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch up with you next time.